So welcome to Midweek, Experiments in Faithfulness. This is a weekly facilitated spiritual practice with a Quaker flavor and an experimental ethos. My name is Jen, and I'm the program manager here at Beacon Hill Friends House, which is a Quaker center for learning and action and a residential community of about 20 people who live according to Quaker values. And tonight we have Rachel Shields Ebersole with the practice, The Magic of Seasons. So when you start to think about it, the 4 seasons we all learned in preschool probably don't really match the cycle of the natural world where you live. And having them as a default framework can keep us from observing what's actually happening around us. So tonight we'll spend some time contemplating our current season, reflecting on the natural and personal events that characterize this time in our lives and where we live. We'll share our observations with each other, and we'll go home with fresh ideas on how to celebrate and fully live into this season. So before we get into the program, I have some quick orienting remarks and housekeeping information. Then I'll introduce Rachel and hand things over to her. So first, on technology, we have automated closed captioning available for our program tonight that I just turned on, so the subtitles might be appearing for you. If they are and you want to turn them off, you can use the live transcript or CC button to show or hide subtitles to toggle that feature. So we are recording this practice. Only Rachel and I will be shown in the video. We plan to edit this content and post it later on our website, and we'll send a copy of the edited recording to all of the folks who registered. And as I say at all of our midweek practices, all of our midweek programs are free and open to the public. So at the end of this practice, I'll do a virtual passing of the hat by giving you information on how you can make a donation to help us continue putting these events on for free, paying our facilitators for their excellent work, and supporting all of the work of the Friends House. So now I'm excited to introduce you to Rachel. With a passion for creating community in every form she can think of, Rachel was active in community development in Woodstock, Vermont. Most recently ran a co-working space in Portland, Oregon, and is currently taking time off to do creative exploration and incubation of whatever beautiful thing is next. Rachel lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and this session is based on Rachel's workbook, The Magic of Seasons, which is available for purchase on her website. And I'll drop a link to her website in the chat after I'm finished here. And I'll also drop a link to the worksheet, which you'll want to, if you haven't already downloaded, you'll want to do that for this practice. So again, welcome. We're happy that you've joined us, and Rachel, it is all yours.
Thanks, Jen. It's fun to be here again. I'm going to experiment on you all a little bit with the format tonight. So we'll be sort of doing small chunks of contemplation and then small chunks of group sharing, and sort of alternating throughout the evening. If you haven't had a chance to print out the worksheet for yourself, then just a plain sheet of paper will be fine. And you can, write in the headings for yourself as we go. I'll give you visuals so you know what to label things. And yeah. So we're new to Milwaukee, kind of. We moved here last summer, and moving somewhere in a pandemic is kind of a challenge. But basically, like, not having any friends or social activities, I feel like made me try to observe more about the natural world as I was trying to get to know a new place. And I think that is what really sparked this workbook in me, thinking, like, even though I'm in a really northerly place, the seasons here feel really different than they did in Vermont, and really different than they did in Portland, which is, it's a whole different thing, Portland, Oregon. Yeah, so the examples, I'll be giving you examples of me filling out this worksheet as we go. And those examples are all sort of drawn from what I chose to call the bitter dead of winter that I got to experience from like January through mid-March here in Milwaukee. So it'll be really fun to have somebody who is in a different hemisphere experiencing a completely different season. And it's fun that we sort of have a geographical spread throughout the Northern Hemisphere as well. So I'm excited just to get glimpses of what you're all experiencing. Okay, so if you have the worksheet or a blank sheet of paper and something to write with, we can go ahead and get started. So I'd love to ask you all to share some of your observations. What season are you in right now? What are you noticing? And I will start off with just a couple things myself so as not to ask you to share and not share myself. I have been noticing that lots of my neighbors are taking walks, whereas they were not before because the weather is a lot warmer. And I don't know what their dogs do during the winter because they're not out walking with their owners that I'm seeing. And it's very unpredictable. I just have no idea if I'm going to need my winter coat or like shorts. It's hard to make plans based on outdoor things because I never know if it's going to be nice or not. But it is all the flowers are really beautiful, and we have a bird that like comes and flutters at our window to try to tell the cat to go away and leave her nest alone, which is pretty great. What are some of the things that feel seasonal that you're noticing in your lives? Scene setting that we're doing. So given that, I'm going to ask you at the top of your worksheet to give your season that you're in a new name or descriptive title that does not involve any words like spring or summer. So it can be as short or long as you want. It doesn't have to be poetic, but if you couldn't call this spring, summer, winter, fall, whatever, how would you describe it? What time of year would you say it is? As part of my experiment, I'm going to collect our responses on the slide here. So I'm going to share with you that I have decided to name this part of the year tulip time because it seems like really they mark the beginning of spring or whatever, it seems like the warmer weather is this next season of the worksheet. What are some activities you associate with this season? And then indicate things that you actually do in the season and things you actually have seen people do. Because I find a lot of times I associate activities with a particular season, but nobody actually does them. So this is kind of a fun way to clarify what are we actually doing. Two, I feel like this, while you're thinking about activities, we can move easily into having you think about what are the tastes, smells, sounds, and textures that you're observing or that you associate with the season. So if you want to go ahead and work on that part of the worksheet too, and we'll just share about both of those sections all together. So I'll give you a few minutes to think about the taste, sounds, smells, and textures. I'd love to hear some of your things that you came up with. Let's start with the tastes and sounds slide. What are some of your favorites? You don't have to tell me your whole list. If there are things that surprised you, maybe something you associate with the season but you don't actually do, or something that you love doing with this season but you never thought about it as part of the season before, or just things you thought were interesting. All right, so this is the last one before we really get into the contemplative piece. What are some specific things that might mark the beginning and the end of the season that you're in? Like I talked about the tulips kind of seeming like they're going to be here through the whole time. So that seems like a marker of this season. But what are some other activities, natural things, like Courtney mentioned, the new birds showing up. So what are some markers of the beginning and end of the seasons? So I feel like this last question is really sort of the heart of what all this observation and contemplation is about. So if you were to fully and joyously embrace this season, what would that look like? That can be things you already do or new ideas that might help mitigate some of the things that you find frustrating about the season. So I'll just give you a couple minutes to think about that, and then we'll share one thing and wrap up. But I'll give you a minute.